Hello?
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, I could hear you perfectly. Thanks so much for talking a little bit about how ShakaCode can help companies like yours. So tell me again a little more about why would you pick ShakaCode and not none of the other thousand firms, domestic and globally, especially a lot of the less expensive ones.
You all just have the intuition to quickly identify the issues and help people save time, right? Like 10, I would say 10 minutes with you all can answer questions that, like the high level, difficult questions that most people aren't going to be able to answer. Yeah,
What's
like,
been your experience so far with our coaching program?
uh, it, like you all know what a Rails developer would want to know about React, right? Like that's just like your React code is very, very clean. Like it's at a much higher standard than most React code that I see, and you all are pushing the forefront of what React and Rails can do, what React can do. Yeah.
So how has React on Rails met your expectation? How's React on Rails worked out for you, the open source library?
It's been incredible, right? Like it's very easy to use. It's user friendly. I would say that the when pre-rendering was working, it was working really, really well. But like for the amount of stuff that React and Rails does for you automatically, it's incredible. Like I recognize how the fact that you can pass a Boolean to a render function and it's just going to render pre-render. Like I know there's thousands of lines of code just automatically ensuring that process works. It was quite painless for me to get a demo up, and I hadn't used React ever as a Rails developer. I hadn't used any single page applications, front end application frameworks ever. And the fact that I was able to do it with React and Rails is incredible. I'll say that.
And why did you actually decide your Rails app had to go to JavaScript?
Well, I knew that I wanted, if you look at like listing websites, I wanted something that was fast, right? And that could have, more advanced features. I definitely believe jQuery can't handle there's a lot of things jQuery can't do without, just adding so much extra complexity. It's not worth it, right? And React just lets you, the moment that I saw props and state with like some basic synthetic events, it was like, why wouldn't you use React? Like, it's just,
right.
Like, why wouldn't you, I don't think that you would need React Router for most applications, but just use React components. Like right now, even one of the most basic problems I've run into with Rails for forever is just like a has many, like strings or like has many integers or has many whatever, right? And you can just use a React component, just throw it in as like a select box or something that lets you pick many. Before I would use selectize with jQuery, and it would be like a 5-step process per field. And now I've just written this components for a list, and I just use it every. Like it just works. Like there's just no, it's awesome. Yeah.
It just works. I love it. What's we've been helping you out a little bit with images. How's your experience been with our help with the way you do images compared to, say, if you had to figure it out on your own?
So yeah, definitely. We did have to figure it out on our own originally, right?
Right.
And thankfully we did pick Cloudinary, and I think that we did an okay job. But a lot of the things that I wanted to do, I thought about using like breakpoints because like you can take advantage of Cloudinary. You can get smaller images, but I would never have had the time to build like a good, almost like a library like solution for it. And you all have that code,
right.
It'd be so like specialized, like using Cloudinary and using the breakpoints and use, it is
Yeah.
a very specific use case, but you're not going to, you all have found the best way to handle images in React. I would say,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not using Cloudinary, you're going to want to use those breakpoints. You're going to want code at that high quality that, you just,
there's two things we bring to, doing our coaching. One is we have a lot of experience with other client projects. Actually, it's more than two things. The very first one is our background in Rails and then creating React on Rails. And I've been at the absolute forefront of integration of React with using Webpack, using Ruby on Rails since 2014. So that's, that's part one. So part two is we have a lot of experience with different client projects. So we're able to, like you said, we have the intuition to kind of, we might not know. Yeah, go ahead. What are you saying?
Yeah, like definitely. Like I found, people that have that intuition behind it can solve problems that would take, teams hours upon hours to solve just because they're not familiar with all the, there's so many potential problems you're going to run into. I would say with using React, like there's so many anti-patterns and just bad ways to do it. And like even like the tutorials you have just point you in the right direction. I say React and Rails is a very opinionated framework, which is why we chose you. I would say there's competitors in the Rails, but that is I don't know if I can phrase it correctly, but like that I've found that before. You're like you can immediately identify what the issue is, and you have the process for solving. And for most people, like for our problems, we can't, like for pre-rendering. Right. I could sit here for days and I may or may not get it just because I don't have that intuition. Like I don't have I don't have a good process for solving it. And I may be able to solve it in an hour myself, but like I probably won't. I know, like you can just point to each issue and go, you do this step, and you do, like you immediately said, let's open up the Webpack bundle and go to these lines and we can find it. Or we have this other, you had option 1 and option 2. I wouldn't have any options. I would be like, okay, let me think about this. I don't know if I'm effectively using my time. And talking to ShakaCode, you all ensure that our time is used effectively.
Yeah, it's the number one thing is that it's all about maximizing your time. And you don't have the time, even though we have a lot of documentation, which a lot of people like.
Yes.
The difference is that, especially when we're doing the coaching plan, it doesn't actually take often that much time because we'll give you a link to the exact example or the exact line in the documentation. And there's that way, and it's not only the link to the exact spot, like it's not just that, but it's using our intuition and saying, but you're going to have to watch out for this because of your specific situation, where your code has come from. No project is going to be at some perfect state, and this is exactly the perfect answer from the perfect blog article. It's always, there's little bits in here and there, and every day it's going to be different. There's like, oh, this new thing came out, and maybe we might do it a little bit differently. So it is, like you said, it's really that intuition from working on projects like this. So so it's going back to what I was saying is that, so we're leveraging, React on Rails. It's Rails plus React. Like you're saying, we write good React code. I think our Rails code is just as good. And that went into the design of React on Rails. You can look at the source code there, look how well it's tested and designed. And then on top of that, we have our client projects. And then on top of that, we're building our own production consumer application, Friends and Guests. And we're doing things like we're leveraging the R&D of that project into your project. A good example is that it's a listing site. So that we've got in there, it's a listing site. So we've got in there, mapping, we've got images, we've got authentication, permissions, there's routing involved, there's validation, there's advanced Webpack usage. There's a lot of stuff we haven't even got into your app yet, Daniel, because it's just going to take some time. We've got to start where you are, where your team is, and get there. And then the next thing actually we're building on top of all of that experience is something we call React on Rails Pro, is that even if we shared our giant consumer application with you, then the problem would be it's so much code. It's pretty overwhelming actually if you actually see the production amount of production code when you're doing the stuff in really good JavaScript with, you're handling mobile responsive, you're handling desktop, iPads, everything, Safari, Chrome, Windows, Macs, old browsers, new browsers. There's so much code there that's involved. So what we're doing is we're trying to distill out a lot of the patterns so that you can kind of like the very simplest level is we start off with a generator. We designed the React on Rails generator so that it's as simple as it can be. It is hello world. And that there's actually a lot of thought that goes into what is the simplest thing that you can build that will show this is working. I think you benefited from that when you wanted to start off with React on Rails, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like
how cool is that?
It was awesome. I definitely could say like we would not have gone with React. We wouldn't have gone with React on Rails or like with any of the Rails specific frameworks if it hadn't have been like it was so easy to go from creating the tutorial to actually seeing it live on the page. Yeah. Like it was like Rails. Like you just put it in and it works, right?
Right.
It's exactly there's no weird errors. Like it just works. I mean, and you all are also pushing the forefront with like the hot reloading and like the quick,
Yeah.
But for most of these things, like we didn't even need it. Like we've literally used our like the basic, dev bundle for 2 months now.
Right.
I mean, we've rapidly built this, this kind of this React app, but like most of the features you have are even, they're beyond what a React Rails developer.
You're not needing it for the basics. So our very basic, let me go back to where I was, hello world with the React generator. Don't even turn on Redux. Boom. Okay.
Yeah.
Next thing, put in the Redux flag. Wow, it's working with Redux. Still pretty simple, relatively, but I've even got like a 10-minute egghead video. You can just watch the whole thing with Redux. And then naturally, though, in 10 minutes, I'm not explaining to the newbie, this is React, this is Redux, and this is Ruby on Rails. It's just, you get up and running. Yeah. The next thing is that we have what we call the React Webpack Rails tutorial. That actually started way before React on Rails. And the idea originally was I created an article and a sample repository, and I said, hey, this is how you can use Webpack with Rails. And that was like a, kind of a big deal. And then I had a bunch of friends of mine in the Rails community. They kept like bugging me. It's like, Justin, I would use yours and not the React-Rails, which focus on the ACID pipeline.
Yes.
But, they do server rendering and you don't. So I kind of, looked at how they did it and I go, sure, I'll do that. So I started writing in Gem. And then that was like, kind of like, okay, that's kind of cool. And, get the server rendering running. Wow. And then I started getting going on it and people liked us, like, wow, got a few stars, got a few more stars, and kind of motivated us. And, I kind of make it better and better. Then eventually we had the generators going, big shout out to all the team in the community, kind of added a lot of work with that. And that made it a lot better because before you had to copy and paste and set up all the files yourself, the very, very early days. Then, I think a lot of the influence has been, a lot of the stuff David Heimer Hansen's written about Rails with the Rails doctrine. What are like the principles? What are the guiding principles of the project? And I wrote an article about that, kind of the React on Rails doctrine, and basically adopting the same principles of how do we decide what goes into the framework? How do we put it in there? And like you said, yes, it is very opinionated. We wanted to make it opinionated because we've done the research. And these are our opinions, and this is how you can get an app up and running. How fast, Daniel? Way faster than you expected, right?
Yeah, the speed of Rails.
It's like Rails. It's like Rails, JavaScript land, right? With Rails underneath it, with server rendering. And then we even added some really cool stuff recently, like even internationalization support, full support for Redux. You can have multiple components on a page, all listing the same Redux store. You can have a header component and a body component. And your body can be either a Rails part, or it can be a separate React component. And both the header and the body are listening to the same Redux store. And so we put all that in the React Webpack Rails tutorial. Eventually, the original tutorial then adopted the gem, and we put a lot of effort into building that. So that's kind of like a more advanced example where we demonstrate things like CSS modules, which are an absolute, I think they're a must-use if you're using Webpack and React, because it's just, it can make your CSS so much cleaner. And then, we put in things in there like hot reloading. The problem with hot reloading is actually it's evolved quite a lot, and it's been very unstable.
Yeah.
And so actually we're now in our production code, we actually use the Webpack DLL, and we don't even use hot reloading anymore. And we may actually use it again in the near future. It's in like a beta version right now with Dan Abramov. But, we're still working on these details. And then, from all that, we built our own app, Friends and Guests, which, you can kind of look at that and see the quality there. And then you can see is that we just, today I just shared with you access to our React on Rails Pro, which has examples, basically our prototype, simple to do app, but production quality with like authentication, with like navigation, all of our best practices. And it's not the beginner to do app. If the purpose of a to do app is so that there's no domain, there's very little domain code in there. It's all kind of the framework, it's kind of like, it's the next step above Hello World, so that whatever app you're going to build on that, you just kind of rip out a little bit of the to-do part, and then we put in, your own part. And that's where we add value to all of our clients. The reason why we started up the coaching plan was that normally our projects were, a lot more dollars per month with full-on contracts. We basically work with your team. We do the, we're debugging stuff with you. We're pushing code, pull requests. It's production stuff. Just to get a developer's machine set up on a big complicated project takes a lot of time. You don't fit that into just a few hours. So what happened with our coaching thing, it's an interesting story. It's a long time back. One of the companies, GuavaPass, our first coaching client, said, hey, is there anything you could do with us for just like a few hours to just get us up to speed on React and Rails and do this? And I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I bet some other startups out there would want to do it. And now we've got, even beyond startups, we have, a big company like we help out Autodesk with that, for example. They're using React on Rails. We have a bunch of other startup companies that are using it. Some of them are, really small. Even some people, even some individuals, they want to just, use our coaching plan and, study, build their own sample app and do it, the right way without wasting a lot of time.
Yeah.
So then we get like the coaching going, and we start off, a company like yours on that. Then you get to know us. And then the next step with our services is then we'll say, you know what, we'll go on to a monthly retainer. And basically the way it works is like every month you hire us. And at the end of the month, you decide, did we exceed your expectations for what we said we deliver or not? And then if we did, you'll probably hire us for another month if you still have more work to do. And we don't, we used to bill hourly. We don't bill hourly anymore. It's all value-based. So we would just basically say, Daniel, if you had a budget, say just rough numbers, say like $10,000, we say these are the approximate goals. I kind of have an idea how long it takes the team to do it and also how much R&D work we put into getting all the stuff ready. And I touch base with you during the 1 month sprint. And at the end of the day is that we exceed your expectations. That is my only goal, is to exceed your expectations. That being said, we only work with reasonable clients that we know understand professional software development and know that the code that they're seeing on the surface with the pretty colors is not necessarily just, what is going into the code underneath. They've got to be, the people that hire ShakaCode are the ones that want code that's as good as your best open source code. They can hand it off to any other developer on their team or any other consultant, and the code just goes, wow, this looks clean. Oh yeah, this works, or whatever. It's not like, what's going on here? We try to use whatever popular open source we can use, always. We always try to run with the herd. That being said, very often, because we're so experienced at contributing to both NPM and Rails and Ruby projects, we often fork repos, submit pull requests, And we do that because it's the open source way. It's also the least maintenance cost way for your project. We see a lot of projects, they have their own bloody forks all over the place. They're totally out of date with the current stuff. So we don't do that. And then sometimes that doesn't even work out. And then we actually, then we're working on, writing our own code. But we always try to evaluate, can we find good open source out there, get it integrated right? And really, it's all about delivering value. And the value is not just, oh, gosh, we met your deadline, it works. It's great. We have code that we know is production ready. It's readable by the team. And when we want to change it, because every project changes, it's going to be very clear how we go about going in that code and changing it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Tell us a little. Can you tell us a little bit about what your project is and what we're going to try to achieve in the near future?
So, I'm with a Greater Washington Publishing, right? And we're just trying to make like almost like your average listing site, coming from in many ways, right? Coming from like our old application, almost anything would be an improvement. But of course, we like tried to jump as far, take it as far as we could. So obviously, we wanted to use React or something, right? We wanted really quick. We wanted the pages to load really, really quickly, and we wanted advanced features on the front end. And I'm hoping that you'll right now you'll help us with the pre-rendering.
Yeah, easy.
And some like meta tags and things. That would be good. But in the future, hopefully we can get you all to boost the quality of our code. Help us write like good tests for the JavaScript side. Rob was already helping me yesterday, like identify the best breakpoint, right? And the Redux actions make perfect sense for where, honestly, like that was I've never really tested JavaScript before because it hasn't made sense for for domain specific applications. Like if you're going to use jQuery, you don't need tests for most things because it's just like a button click or, you're not going to have an advanced flow. But for React, like it's all it's stateful. There's a whole application. You have to manage things. And honestly, I hadn't spent very much time looking for it because most of our actions aren't, they're not that complicated, and we don't have a lot of our state is independent of each other. There's not, but I couldn't find a good breakpoint, and the actions make perfect sense anyways. Like we probably would have tested our actions if we had, if we had heard from you, oh, hey, that's the most convenient place to do it. Right.
Right. It's all about knowing. It's not about how fast you can write code. It's knowing what code to write and where to put it.
Yes. And your intuition in that it's invaluable. Like there's just no way,
The other big thing is that, are you going to test this out, say, on the Rails side with Capybara? Are you going to test it out on the JavaScript side, for example? When you're looking at, how are you setting up your test?
Yeah.
What's going to be the most efficient? What works for your very specific use case?
Yeah. I don't know.
How do you like the way the coaching program goes in terms of the way we set it up by, setting you up with a private Slack channel for your team members to ask us questions? And then I've got, it's not just me. I've got my little bit of expertise, but we've got a wide variety of team members that can go really deep. Like you were asking some questions about SEO tags. We've just been doing that for our friends and guests, and we're currently in like a bunch of, work doing that. And that'll be just somebody else. So Rob wasn't really involved in that. I was involved in that. We'll bring that person in. We've got another person that knows a ton about Docker and AWS type stuff and DevOps stuff, that person come in. We've got a bunch of guys, on the Rails side. We're perfectly happy to help out with conventional Rails. Just, these guys are, the Rails backend plus RSpec, just gurus. Just, they're going to, so the other thing that we're doing, so we got the Slack room, is that you give us access to your code. We'll do some pull requests for you, pull request reviews. So we'll go and we'll put some comments in there. So you know, when we do a lot of the asynchronous communication on Slack and with the pull request reviews, it really doesn't chew up that much of kind of our initial allotment of 10 hours. You know, but then what happens is that, like, you know, we'll find is that some clients, they're in a rush to get stuff done. They want us to pair with them, help them out, and then that will kind of, you know, help them debug the tough problems, and then that will, you know, then that will take up some more time, and then we renew the coaching plan if we need to, or, you know, typically what we'll do then is we'll, you know, say, hey, we'll set up a monthly retainer, and then we move you to our value plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Any
definitely.
questions on all that?
No, I mean, yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll get back to coding. We just I want to thank Daniel for taking a bit of time. He was telling us how happy he was with having ShakaCode help him out. I was kind of telling him about how it's great, and it's such a hustle we have to do to find new clients like him, because, you know, we compete with companies all over the world now, and I've been a very, very lazy marketer. I apologize to everybody that signed up on my mailing list. I haven't even mailed them back yet. I kind of keep planning on doing that. But the number one place all my efforts have been with building my services firm is by giving back to the community with free stuff, which is primarily the open source projects, with primarily React on Rails, then the different example apps. And we also even have a bunch of Node, more Webpack extensions we've written as well, like Bootstrap Loader and some others. So we do give back a lot to those examples. We created the forum.ShakaCode, where I constantly try to put little notes there. We do a lot of blog articles. And, so this is how we find everybody. People find us, usually they do some Google search, they get to know us, so we have little blurbs here and there that say, hey, we could really help you out. So that's the marketing I do. I've read lots of books on how I need to do all this other stuff, but all I've wanted to do is just give stuff away and find people like Daniel that just are pleased, are happy. Yeah, there's that's the ultimate reward. And then the team is all composed pretty much of people that have worked with me on open source. So they love working with, what we do. They love the team. We have a team that just absolutely loves working together. And if anybody, wants to be a part of what we're doing, get in touch. And if we could help you out with your project on doing some coaching, or maybe even, getting on our value-based plan of setting up expectations every month, and we'll do we'll deliver, and beat your expectations every month, get in touch. Anyway, thanks a lot, Daniel. We'll quit this call and we'll get back to our Screen Hero session.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.